Okay, so starting out here, we've got the good old-fashioned fuzzy circle. Now, the fuzzy circle can be used for more than just a circle. The basic concept is that you are using nice, loose outlining with straight lines and straight lines that can be moved sort of in any direction to give you a guide as to where to transcribe your final lines. And in fact, you actually don't use most of your outlining lines, especially when it comes to something curvy like a circle, which is really, really hard to get right. So when you're doing something like your paper curls or a still life, you are still going to go ahead and make it so that you're using that loose, sketchy, angled strokes to create structure for your final contour lines. The next thing you're going to want to do is come in and look at how you think the light might fall. I like to take the sphere and sort of sketch out that area of light to dark. So taking the sphere, creating and looking at critically where the planes are. Then what you're going to do is go ahead and start to put in your midtones. You start with your midtones. Now, I know that we learned in class that we have a light midtone and a dark midtone and a true middle midtone. It doesn't matter as much when you're actually putting them down. Right now, you're just getting a sense of where the light is falling and putting in that first sort of broad, big, major plane of a midtone, of value. Next, I'm coming in with my darker midtone and varying my midtones. So saying, wait, I could get a little bit darker, but here I could get a little bit lighter and go for my lighter midtone before I get all the way to that final little circle that I've mapped out there that's going to end up being my core light that's going to fade to that teeny tiny highlight. Continuing to work the midtones as I see the differences emerge. I had a painting teacher one time who had such a great statement, which was go to the part of the painting or the drawing that is the least finished. So when something starts to sort of glare out at you, you work the whole painting or the whole drawing or the whole still life, particularly with the values. So now I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident, like I can start getting my darker values in there. Also, you'll notice that I've left that reflected light kind of pale. So that's a part that looks unfinished to me. So I'm going to come in there and I'm just going to shade it in with a darker midtone, kind of establishing what are my darker midtones, my lighter midtones, and my true midtones. In comes the Darth Vader and the big gun here with the core shadow, coming in using that dark pencil to define underneath. Again, one more time. The big gun is faded in and now we're really getting the sphere. But if we hadn't laid down some of those midtones first, this shadow wouldn't be as strong and noticeable. And now we're just going to come up to the edges of where the core shadow might be, and also fading that area of reflected light down into a darker midtone. Finally, it's time to come in with our lights. I'm going to erase some of those little contour lines that I added in just a minute here. And adding in that core light by just fading it down to that teeny tiny highlight, which remains just a little touch of the light of the paper. Okay, moving on now to the cast shadow, using straight lines to define that as it lays down there, getting it nice and darker as the light is casting it, sort of also defining here the shape of what the umbra is, the dark side of the shadow. Never underestimate the power of the dark side. Now coming in and shading out the pen umbra, indicating flat lines down there on the ground for ground level, angled lines for sort of the light coming in, using the lighter pencil to add in the value of the background, using the lighter pencil to create the one side here of the sphere, drawing the defining line with the lighter pencil, and really using the lighter pencil to actually fade some of our beautiful lights and darks and create that transition. The final sphere has a cast shadow lying nice and flat. It's a very well-defined shadow, but it has this fuzziness that fades around out of it. These angled strokes and cross-angled strokes are sitting on planes to define spheres of light. We see that highlight is barely there, but it's definitely there. In all the pencil transitions, we sort of lose what's a mid-tone, what's a dark mid-tone, what's a light mid-tone, because it doesn't matter as much as the fact that we've created the transitions from light to dark, and we've done them all with light logic as they should appear. When you do something from observation, you will be seeing this in real life. When you draw your paper curl, you will be seeing it and observing it in front of your eyes, which is why we practice with our sphere and using our light logic. Okay, that's all I have for today. Happy arting!